Setting up your meeting for Facebook Live. Okay, we're here. Hi, Denee'Hughes.
Hello.
Hi, Denee'Hughes, you're here. Welcome, everybody, for the first of hopefully a beautiful series of interviews with Fork Fighter, where I am just super committed to help busy moms go from surviving to thriving. And so we're talking with busy moms, having real life conversations, because I think it's really easy for us to think everybody else has it all together and we're the only ones that struggle or challenge or question. And so we're going to have a beautiful discussion. And I'm so excited, Denee'Hughes, that you said yes to be the very first one.
Well, it's a really good thing to do. I think you're right. We have a tendency to look at other people and assume that something that we're doing is wrong. But in actuality, these kinds of conversations are just an opportunity to think about, oh, yeah, this could work for me, or I don't want to do it that way. And that's okay, because everybody is different. Every family is different. Every person is different. Every story is different. So I'm excited to just share a little bit of my story with you today.
Okay, awesome. Mm-hmm. So you sent me a beautiful bio, and because I'm a rookie, I didn't pull it up. Would you tell the people who you are in case somebody doesn't know who you are? She's kind of famous.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've been in Springfield, Missouri most of my life. I actually only spent 6 years outside of Springfield. I lived for a brief stint of time outside of the city limits for about 6 years. And then we moved back into the Springfield area just 8 months ago. So I'm happy to be back into my community. I've done all kinds of things around Springfield. I haven't had one career path. I've done a variety of things, including the morning show host of a local radio station for several years, podcasting, consulting. I've been really involved in the health and wellness community at several stages in life, and also other things that aren't as cool, like working at Taco Bell and, being a waitress and not knowing what I was doing at all. So, but yeah, this is my community. I love this area, and that's a little bit about what I do. But other things people like to know is like, I'm a mom of a 3-year-old, so that's kind of new. But yeah, I do all kinds of things. Right now, I am actually doing project management and writing and consulting and podcasting. That's kind of in that sphere is where I am a working mom. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it so much. Yeah. And so I feel like I've known you in a long time because I listened to you on the radio. And then when you were doing the health and wellness business networking, I went to one of those meetings, and that's how we met. And then I'm pretty sure you and Erin came to our VBS at church.
Oh yeah.
And I think I fangirled you there and was like, you don't know me, but I feel like I know you.
Yeah, I did the management for like the projects and different things that you do at the station, where the station would kind of go out into the community. I kind of managed all of that. And so, yeah, we would do those and food drives and clothing drives and stuff to just help the community out. So that was a lot of fun. That was a really interesting time of my life. I learned a lot about myself in those years.
I bet you did. Yeah. And seeing yourself reflected in other people, right? I'm sure they get one sliver of who you are when you're on air. Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's an interesting thing about being such a public personality is that, especially radio, you might catch a conversation in between songs that lasts for 90 seconds or so. And I think my favorite part, one of my favorite parts of that time and that season, which ended for me just about a year and a half ago, I was actually on radio of some kind for like 7 or 8 years doing morning shows and things like that. But it's that somehow part of you still connects with people. And I just think that's a really cool part of what I got to experience, is that even though it's a story about leaving peanut butter on a spoon and how that really grossed somebody out, like somehow that's relatable and somehow that's something that people want to hear more of. And so finding a way to talk about everyday life was a delight and something I miss. We actually still do a little bit of a morning show. We go live. My radio partner, Aaron Dicer, and we go live every Monday on our Facebook page and YouTube and Twitch and Periscope and all of that. It's called The Morning DNA. And we go live at 9 a.m. Central. And that's kind of like an extended version of what we've been doing together for almost 10 years. So I would invite you to check it out if you didn't know that was an option for you.
Yeah, everybody totally check it out. I checked it out last Wednesday and I kind of had it on in the background while I was doing some other things. And it's like, especially right now where we're physically distanced, it was so nice to be a fly on the wall in somebody else's conversation. And then occasionally, I have something to say about everything. So then I'd have to pop over and like leave a little comment. It was refreshing. Yeah. So definitely check it out. And I will put in the comments all the places that you can connect with Denee'Hughes afterwards. So let's jump into some interview questions. I totally stole this from Brene Brown, but I love it, especially for right now. It's a simple question. How are you? But then I'm going to tag on, how are you really, right? Because it's so easy for us to be like, yeah, I'm fine. So how are you really?
So I wrote down some of the answers to these questions earlier, just so that I kind of could go back and have a general stance. Today, I have a headache. Today, in this moment in real life, my right eye is twitching and my energy, which I would usually say is around a 10, is probably more like a 4 in my opinion. So I'm feeling a little bit self-conscious and feeling a little bit low in that department. I actually took medication today. I don't usually do that. So it's one of those where I'm like, ooh, is this going to get worse or is it going to get better? Like TBD, not sure. So that's my actual real moment. But in general, I'm really, really good. And I kind of feel strange even saying that because I know that 2020 has been incredibly insane, difficult, heartbreaking, life-changing for so many people. For my husband and I, we had already planned to move and we had purchased a house just before the pandemic kind of really exploded in March. And so we already had a house purchased. So we moved right at the very beginning of everything shutting down and people, the toilet paper crisis and all that stuff that just kind of kicked the whole thing off, at least locally. And since then, it's been pretty incredible. We were able to get our house together and settle in, and we're healthy and happy. We both have jobs that allow us to do what we do from home. And so we really didn't have to do too much adjustment. And because we were living so far away before, the isolation hasn't hit us the same, I think, as other people because we were already isolated. We didn't have visitors very often. We didn't get out very often. So not a ton has changed for us. And I know that that's a privilege. And so talking about how my life is good is sometimes awkward, although I know that I'm not the only person that's having an okay time right now. I still talk with a lot of people who aren't. And so I try to be sensitive to that and not forget that that's just not the case for everybody. But truly and genuinely, outside of this momentary pain in my head, I'm doing really, really good. So awesome. That's awesome to say.
Yeah. And being able to be honest about how we're really feeling, right? And another thing that I heard recently is that whole comparative suffering piece, right? Like, so you have a headache today, that's how you're feeling. Somebody else may have been out of a job for 9 months. One person's suffering doesn't negate the other one. And you're both experiencing what you're experiencing, and we can meet each other there, love each other there, and not try to be like, well, mine's more than yours, or I should not say what my truth is because what if somebody else's is worse? It's like, no, that's you're where you're at.
Yeah. And if somebody responds and they respond in their pain and they say something along the lines of, well, mine is this, I think that's just an opportunity to say, oh, this person needs care right now. And do I have the capacity to give that person care right now? Because people do oftentimes amplify their own circumstances because they need something from someone, from somewhere, from God, from what you don't know what. So even though it can be a little bit uncomfortable sometimes to hear someone compare their pain to yours, and almost take it to be like, oh, are you dismissing my pain? I personally, and this is not how I'm saying anyone else should be, but I personally oftentimes go, oh, like, do they need something right now? Am I the person that can give that to them? So I usually am like, are you okay? You know, do you want to talk? And that's oftentimes an open door to just be love to somebody. And that's really, really important. It doesn't mean you have to put your pain on the back burner forever. But yeah, if someone came to me and said that they had like a death in the family, I'm pretty sure I'd be like, let's not talk about my headache. Let's talk about what's going on with you.
Yep. I love that. Totally. Awesome. Okay. Well, that's a great segue into, being what people need and kind of serving them, because you and I sort of got to take our relationship and our friendship deeper because we were having a bit of a conversation about your health journey and what was kind of the next phase for you. So what do you want to share with people about your health journey as a woman, as a mama? How has that evolved?
Oof. Before having my daughter, I think I was in pretty good state of health. Was more active and, I mean, I've never really had a great relationship with food in general. I'm going to be super honest because I would really appreciate hearing that from someone else. So, I have never been somebody to, like get up in the morning and cook a lot or go to the grocery store and just make a whole bunch of meals and prep. And I just don't think like that. I'm more of an in the moment person than I am a planner. So I've always struggled with making food, but as an eat out person, I love to eat out and I love to eat out healthy foods. I say that, but I also love tater tots, like a whole bunch. So I kind of
only they didn't taste so good, right?
I don't I do love healthy foods. I love fruits and vegetables. I love mushrooms and spinach. And when I get like a frozen pizza, I try to get like the ones that are without a whole bunch of preservatives and have a whole bunch of vegetables on them. And, like I love that kind of stuff. But making things myself is really, really difficult. So my health journey, my whole life has been looking to restaurants to feed me and making sure that I have a budget that can take care of that, or going over to friends' houses who know how to cook and helping them cook. And that works. But after Iris, like my health shifted quite a lot as your body changes. Spoiler alert, you never go back into a physical shape to what you were beforehand because everything shifts and not all of it goes back. So, and I'm not talking about like from a position of like, oh, I look different and so I don't feel like myself, though that does happen. I'm talking like structurally. My feet are different sizes, my hips are wider. So I really have struggled with structural stuff for like 3 years. And until the last, I want to say 4 months or so, I haven't really had a breakthrough from migraine relief until I found a specific chiropractor. So my health journey focus wise, the last few years has really been trying to figure out, okay, how do I manage this new addition into my life where I have consistent cyclical pain that I didn't have before. So I just look at my food, I look at my water intake and do things that are kind of easy for me, which is one of the reasons. And I'm going to say Juice Plus, this isn't all about Juice Plus. This is about our life, but Juice Plus really helps me because I know that I'm getting my intake somewhere. So if I have a deficit, I just know I have that. My daughter has been taking it since she was like a year and a half. And so we just have that kind of, at least I know I'm getting my fruits and vegetables. And then adding in other things as time has gone on. And then also recognizing that I don't go outside and walk a lot. So I take, supplements like vitamin D and K2, like in like little droplet form, stuff like that. So I do my best to supplement. I do my best to try to make sure that I'm doing the bare essentials I need to do while pain management is a big part of my life right now. I think I'm probably in good health. Like when I go to the doctor and I have the tests done, like I'm good to go. So that's really great. But I am not active like I was when I was in my 20s, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Like,
Or it's a different kind of active when you're chasing a 3-year-old, because she also doesn't let you lay in bed and watch TV all day. Or, I mean, not that you were ever that person, right? But
no,
like,
I super was.
uh-huh.
No, that was super me. I love lounging. I'm a lounge person, and I have a very sedentary lifestyle where I'm on my computer writing and consulting and very, so I've got like in my head, I've got things I know I could do better. Um, but I also suffer from getting really negative and down on myself. And so I don't set goals for myself and be like, you've got to do this, this, and this. Otherwise, you're not a good person or you're not doing this. It's like, oh, I feel like I walked today. Okay, I'll go walk today. I'm more of that person. We're all different. So definitely have room for improvement, but my relief truly comes from knowing that I'm getting a good source of my health from Juice Plus, just to be completely honest with you. And again, not here to talk about Juice Plus. That is just part of my life. So
For sure. Yeah, I love that. Yep. I love that piece of like not so many rules. I come from a long line of rule followers, and
me too.
I'm finding it's very helpful for me to shift from I always, I never, this month I'm, to what can I do good for myself today? What can I feed myself well at this meal in this moment and feel really good about, and kind of remove the things that I could really judge myself for, because I don't find it serving me.
No, it's hard.
Well.
And it's important. Just try new things out. Like, I've been doing normal chiropractics for years. And then I found a new chiropractor, at Breath of Life Wellness Center. Her name is Dr. McCauley, and she does something called low impact. And I'd never heard of low impact before. And so I went and tried it out, almost like this isn't working for me. So let me just try this. And when it comes to your health, it's hard sometimes to justify, paying out of pocket for something that your insurance doesn't cover, or like going to a massage therapist and spending, $80 on something that you're like, okay, so I feel, good afterwards, but is this really for my health? And you have to ask yourself, like, what is most important? I want to get to the point where I can walk without feeling pain in my hip, and I can make it through, a couple weeks without having a headache. And that's happening for me. We happen to be talking on a day when I have a headache, but this is the first one I've had in 2 months. So it's like the journey that you go on is you just kind of have to keep trying new things out. And I love social media because we can connect like this. But at the same time, there's just such a deluge of so many people doing it better and giving you an example of what works for them. And it's just, it does get into your head. I recently decided to unfollow about 600 people on Instagram. Just was like, I can't do this. I want to have Instagram for my relationships with people. And those are my local friends that I don't get to see very much. I'm watching their kids grow up and things. But my feed was just all these really cool people, like people who know how to bake or cook or organize or decorate or work out or whatever. And so it's just on my feed. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Oh, that's cool. Oh, that's cool. And then I just realized, like, but none of that's my life. I'm not doing any of these things. I'm just watching these people. It's like getting a workout video and just watching it and be like, oh, that was cool. It's not doing anything for me. It's just giving me a visual representation of what I wish, or maybe, but why? I actually just want to love myself as I am today. And that's my goal. So just try to like refocus my mental energy. Even though I'm just scrolling through, it still gets in there. And so I think we begin to define what health should be. And truly, it's just your own thing. And it's every day deciding moment by moment what your body needs. And when you don't provide that for your body and your body responds and you feel the side effects of that, whether it be something that you can manage, like, I don't know if I can manage this headache. I'm not sure if this is something that like I'm going to figure out. I don't know. But there are things I can figure out. Like, I didn't drink enough water a couple weeks ago and I got kind of like queasy. And then I realized, oh, I have not drank water all day long. That's on me. I'll do better tomorrow. So it's just being aware and being really present to what's going on physically and emotionally too, because health is not just physical. It all kind of translates. And when my body changed as a new mom and I was looking in the mirror and I was like, this is my body now, my narrative started to shift into this dark space, which I think is very normal. And I had to fight that. And I was really proud of myself for kind of going, what I did was I put somebody else's face on my body as I was looking in the mirror. And I was like, if this was Jana's body, I would say she's beautiful. But when I put my face on the body, I was like, it wasn't good enough. And I had to, and every day I did that, every single day, just this little visual thing until my inner dialogue became healthy again. And I can walk by a mirror and be like, cool, I feel good about myself. And that's something that's really important too, because your mental health affects your physical health. So you could be running a mile every day or more and eating the best foods and cooking and just not like yourself. And so, and that can cause problems too. So I've really tried to work from my mental into my physical. And I feel like I'm just now kind of shifting more into a really healthy place physically and also mentally. Spiritual is obviously a major part of that too. But those are kind of the spheres I work in when I think about like the health journey of my life. It's interesting. I don't mind it. I don't mind that it's shifting and changing, but I'm really, really thankful to have a few resources that offer some relief for me. Low impact chiropractics might not work for everyone. Juice Plus might not be something that everybody enjoys. It's just, you listen to someone talk like myself or Brenda and you kind of go, oh, that works for me, or, oh, that's not going to work for me. And that's what's important, is just thinking about it.
That's right. Yeah. I love that so much. There's so many takeaways. First of all, we didn't talk about this, but we are both patients of that chiropractic office.
What?
And yeah. Oh yeah. I love them.
I didn't know that.
Dr. Katie mostly, but Dr. Nicole was the first chiropractor that ever worked on me, and it is amazing. So if you're looking for something like that, you should definitely check them out if you're in the Springfield area, for sure. It is different than any other experience that I have had. Yeah.
I before we move on, I would be remiss if I didn't say this. We have this new house we live in. We've lived here for 8 months now, has stairs, and my 3-year-old fell down the stairs from the top all the way to the bottom. And Dr. McCauley is the only certified chiropractic with the highest level of education for infants and toddlers. And that's why I took Iris there the first time, is because I was like, okay. And it's like she's the only one within, I think, like 300 miles of Springfield. And I'm spare no expense. Get me somebody who can appropriately adjust my 3-year-old who can't clearly identify what's happening inside of her body vocally at this point. Right. So we go to her, and then after a couple of months, I was like, well, maybe I'll try it for myself. I started experiencing positive shifts in my physical form, like pain reduction, things that were very easily like, this is different than before. So then I told my husband to go, and then I told my mom to go, and then I told my dad to go, and all of us are going. And now my 90-year-old grandmother is going. Wow. And so anyhow, it's something I've never experienced. It is very different, but I would never tell everyone in my family to go do something like this. Like, hey, everybody, you should come over here and try this really interesting thing that, like when you go to chiropractic, it's like, and like, there's this movement and this, like, it's very easy to tell when you adjust. Yeah. It's very different. This low impact thing is very different. And sometimes you could lay there and be like, are you doing anything? But then you feel it later on and your body adjusts. So anyway, I would be remiss if I didn't say that literally 4 generations are going to Breath of Life Wellness Center. So awesome. It's awesome stuff.
Good. So I think we maybe already covered this, but what are 3 habits that help you protect your health?
What I wrote down, I think, is what I'm going to stick with, which is I really try to limit my sugar intake. It's probably the one thing that I'm really conscious of whenever I'm eating or drinking anything. I love tea, but I get unsweet tea with a splash of sweet. So I have like a little bit, but not a lot. I can't even do half and half sweet tea if I go to a restaurant or something. And then I make my own tea here at the house a lot. And I put in, like, for a gallon of tea, I put in like half of a third. I don't know how much that actually is, but maybe it's like an 1/8. I don't know. Math, measurements, not my strong suit.
I'm pretty sure, but go ahead.
Thank you. I go in there. I'm like, and that's all I need. Or I just avoid it altogether. If I have a sugary thing, I sometimes will even just eat a partial cookie just to get the flavor. I make myself walk away from it. And then oftentimes my body is just like, oh, that's all I wanted. And I don't go back just to finish it. I don't feel bad if the rest of the cookie doesn't get eaten. It doesn't care. It's a cookie. So I think that's one big thing for me is just being conscious of my sugar intake. I do not apologize when I need to take a nap. So I sleep when I want to sleep. Pandemic, hello, a lot of us home, and a lot of us have children at home, and that's really hard to do. But I just don't apologize for it. If I need to take a quick 15-minute power nap, I just check out and do it. In fact, I think another thing that's healthy is just learning not to apologize for being you in the first place. But anyway, and then the other thing I do that's really helping to protect my health, especially right now, is I covet playing games with my friends. So we get together on the computer and we all spend time together, and laughter is just such a wonderful medicine for the soul. And it is such a wonderful thing. And my husband and I, work together to make sure that I get to play games with my friends like once a week. Sometimes it's twice a month. And then same for him. So like when it comes to our child, when it comes to Iris, he'll say something like, we're going to get together and play on Thursday. And I'll say, no worries, I got you. And it's not like, I don't want to watch the kid. It's like, I got you. And he's got me too. So that way we can kind of unplug, disconnect, and just go be goofy with somebody for a little while. And that's a really powerful thing.
I love that too. And I think in our generation of parenting, there sometimes is an expectation that like all of your free time is focused on the kiddos, right? And so I think giving ourselves permission that we are actually better parents when we take time for ourselves, when we take time for our marriage. And I was just saying this to someone the other day, and I hope that my girls are learning that it's okay for them to do that too when they become a mom. Like it's okay to call a girlfriend, hang out, do those things that we know bring us joy and make us.
There are times, many times I'll be gaming downstairs and I'll hear Iris upstairs crying, and she's at the top of the stairs, mommy, and she's like genuinely missing me or something. And I stop and I think, my husband is completely capable of taking care of this. Completely capable. And Iris, she is okay. She just misses me. So I'll text Justin and say something like, do you want me to come upstairs? And his answer is, nope, it'll make it worse. You do you, babe. I got this. And so it's just like trusting my partner. And not everybody has a partner that they can lean on like that. I happen to, and I'm so grateful for him. But it's also honoring him as the dad. There's the question that you're about to ask next, I think is going to be interesting too, because it's about, the balance and everything. So it kind of transitions into that. But I think it's just important to recognize that, not everything's going to fall apart just because your hands aren't in the mix. And even though I'm in the same house and I can hear stuff going on and I might handle it differently, that's all right. That's his kid too. I don't have all the answers. It doesn't have to be my way.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's often one of the most respectful things we can do for each other is hold the space to let the other person do it their way. And that was one of the best pieces of parenting advice when we were new parents was somebody told me, get out of the house. Even if you walk around the block, leave that newborn baby at home alone with that man and let him do it his way. It'll be different than your way and let it be okay. And so I think holding the space for our partners and letting them do it is a beautiful thing for sure. Okay, so let's jump into it. What's been the biggest challenge balancing mom life with career life? And then you can segue into what's been the biggest help or success.
So this question's interesting because when you sent them to me, you're like, we don't have to answer these. And I wanted to have you ask this question because I think it's important for the conversation to continue around. I really hope that men are asked this question too. This is a common question that women are asked and men are not. And it's just that it's that thing like we were talking about earlier, that there's just expectation that women are responsible for raising children and not having careers. And you know what? That's okay. Let's talk about it some more. For us and for my family, I want to work. Um, we even talked about having more children. And I was like, I just don't think I am suited for more children. I don't think that there's anything wrong. If it happens, we'll do the thing, like we'll make it work. But for me, I love to be in projects and I love to be doing things and I love to work. And so for my mental space, it was a real big challenge for me to kind of go, am I going to go like full-time mom here, or am I going to go, back into work mode? And I loved what I did. When Iris was born, I was producing a radio show with my radio partner, Aaron Dicer. And every single day, we produced a radio show that would play on air across, multiple states. It was a syndicated show. I loved doing that. I didn't want to leave that behind. And so Justin and I just prayed about what we wanted to do. And we found some resources, and we found a couple places we felt comfortable taking our child. And so our balance as a family, not as a mom, but as a family, is to find people or places that we felt comfortable also raising Iris, because that's what childcare is. You're choosing somebody else or another organization to influence the upbringing of your child. And that was super hard decision, because I wanted to be in control of like everything, but I can't do everything. I absolutely can't. So we found some resources that worked for us. And then when they stopped working, we found new resources that worked for us. And so we have like a combination of a grandmother that watches her a couple of days a week. And then we have an in-home childcare person that's just around the corner from us now, who just has a couple of other children in her house. And we're very close with them. We talk about things. We co-parent. We exchange ideas. And that's what I wanted. If I was going to have to sacrifice working or raising or whatever the sacrifice would be, because you can't do it all, like what's best case scenario? And it's just finding people that genuinely love your kid. And then when that relief happened, now I can go to work. Now I can put my mind into work. And truly it's just the balance is because you bring in people. I don't even know that I would say it's balanced. I would say sometimes it feels really good and sometimes it feels really weird. And there are weeks when I feel like, ooh, I have a light work week. Should I just go get Iris? Should I go get her and spend time with her? And then I think I really need to sleep, or I just need to check out for a minute. I don't know that I want to go get her. And sometimes I feel like we're supposed to feel guilty about that. And sometimes I'm like, oh no, this is important. So it's a constant conversation I have with myself about what I should be doing with my time with my kid. Because obviously, like, she's ours. She was part of our family. We've got to, like, she's going to be around us. We want to be around her and raise her. So it's more about when she is home, making sure that she's my number one. But that doesn't always happen, because now my job has shifted into where sometimes I get emails at 6:30 or 7, and I run in and I start working. So there are times when she's been gone all day, I've been working all day, and then I still have to work into the evening as my work balance is shifting, and I'll do like a 50-hour work week. Well, that just means I'm in my office. So when she comes in, I just stop what I'm doing for that moment, and we talk, and she'll draw, and I'll pull over like her little miniature desk beside me and we'll work together. I think when I look back on this time, I hope that she knows she's my number one, because when she comes into the room, I stop, or my door is always open to her. I don't close it off for work. So that's something I'm just going to have to answer for at some point in time. Maybe I'm not doing it right. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. I have no idea. I know that I've been told by so many parents that no matter what I do, I'm going to mess her up somehow. And so I just hope to like be honest with her. And she's really good at communicating. She'll sometimes come in, she'll say, I don't want you to work anymore. And I'll say, let me think about that. Okay, I think I can put some of the stuff off till tomorrow. You're right. Let's do something together. Because I want her to communicate with me what she needs as a mom. So since this question is mom-centered, that's kind of where my thoughts are. But I would not be able to do what I do without my husband, Justin, jumping in and being, he's dad. He's a dad a lot. He's dad in the mornings to get her out. He's dad to go get her in the afternoons. He's dad whenever I've got to jump on the computer and work in unexpected times. He's dad when I want to go game with my friends. And so we have to talk between the two of us if he's feeling overwhelmed. And then we really I come to bat for him and say, you know what? Okay, I'm going to do more like, we're going to shift some things around. And we've done that multiple times since she's been born, where he's like, I'm getting fried. Like, okay, time to reevaluate. It's all about communication. You have to be willing to say, ooh, this isn't working for us, and be selfish, because if you're selfish for yourself, then you can be more for other people. Sounds weird. I think it's true. So anyway, I don't know that it's a balance. I think it's just trying to do everything that I feel like I'm supposed to do, and then being really honest about, oh, wait, no, this could wait. Or I just didn't manage my time correctly, and I could have gotten that done earlier in the day, but instead I goofed off for like 45 minutes, and now family time is suffering for it. And being called out on that and honest about that, because nobody knows but you. So you got to just manage your priorities in that way. And I think we're going to be okay. It's not 100% how I would have thought it would be, but it's okay because we all really genuinely love each other. We crack up laughing and play together. And, she loves me. She comes running in every single day and jumps into my arms, and I swing her around, and we read books and, have our fun time together. And she knows that I'm there for her. And she has seen me put down my work, so many times, especially over the last 8 months since my career really got busy.
Yeah, I love that. So many takeaways. One of the things that I am hearing is really it's communication, and including with yourself, right? Asking yourself really great questions, listening to the answers, and that whole balance piece. God gave me this picture because I used to think that balance was like Paradise Island, that you arrive at this pinnacle point, this perfect sweet spot of everything is balanced. And I think it's a verb. And he gave me the idea of like a teeter-totter, right? And so, yeah, you sit on a fulcrum, but almost never is the teeter-totter completely like this. But you dip and you dip and you dip as seasons come, as priorities come. And those are good as long as the teeter-totter doesn't fall off. You're probably doing it right? And in different seasons. And I also think it's beautiful, again, to give our kids permission to say, you know what, maybe I didn't manage my time awesome yesterday, or what other mistake or thing we can learn from, and to show them that too. I always want my house to be the safe place for them to sort of fall apart and know that it's totally okay.
Yeah.
And that falling apart or making a mistake isn't failure, and it's not the end.
And that means that they have to see you do it. They have to see you go through failure. There's been several times, like, first of all, Daniel Tiger is my hero. That show is the bee's knees. I love it so much because it's such an emotionally mature show. It really talks a lot about working through the feelings that a child is feeling, but then also from the parent's perspective, seeing how the parents are responding to the child helps me to be like, that's how I want to respond to Iris too. So for example, I lost my temper a couple of days ago, and I went to her immediately, and I was like, whew, I just had some really big feelings, and I let them out in a really big way. And it was a lot. And she said, Mommy, you lost your temper and you should just count to 3. And I was like, you're right, I should. And so I will do that in front of her. I'll count to 3. I'll take a deep breath. I'll go over and pick up the calm down time book, and I'll talk to her about how I struggle with this. I need to go have my own calm down time. So that the same things that we're asking her to do, I want her to see me do. And that's also true for falling apart and crying. There was a time last, I think it was in like April or May. It was not a good time. I was crying. I was sad and bummed out. And she came to me and she's like, why are you sad? And I was like, I'm just having really, deep emotions and deep feelings. And she just put her little 3-year-old hand on my face and she goes, it's okay to be sad sometimes, because little by little you'll feel better again. And that's what Daniel Tiger taught her. And that's what I teach her too. And now here she's doing it for me. And I said that I know, yes, it's okay for me to be sad. And you're right. I will little by little feel better. And I love you very much. And she's just like, okay, well, if I can do anything for you, let me know. She's so cool like that. So when it comes to work, when it comes to her trying to figure out where she is in the priority list, I have to be willing to go, am I showing her that she's number one? You know, sometimes like when a phone call came in yesterday, it was my brother. I don't get to talk to my brother very much. Number one priority, he popped to the top. I left the table. I went over to the other room. I closed the door. I'm talking to my brother. I'm zoned in on our conversation. And she comes around, she wants to talk to me. And that's a hard thing for a 3-year-old to be like, hey, you know, you're not giving me attention. And what's this? So I was a little bit more harsh with her. I was like, babe, it's not your turn. It'll be your turn in a minute. I'll be with you in just a minute. And that's okay. It's okay to put down those boundaries. But I also want it to be like, oh no, I'm talking to my friend Megan. Hey, Megan, I got to go. My baby girl needs me, you know? And for her to hear that and her to see that, and that those examples and being that vulnerable and being that like, I don't have it all together. And I want her to see that I don't have it all together. It's okay to not have it all together. It's okay.
Totally. The other thing that makes me think of is I love to normalize things. Like, what would this have looked like 50 years ago, 100 years ago, in a different country, all these things, right? And so I take a lot of my parenting from Laura Ingalls Wilder. And like, Ma Ingalls did not drop everything and spend the day playing Chutes and Ladders with her kids, right?
Nope.
Like, there was work that had to be done, and the kids could either be involved in the work or they could entertain themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But the rows were going to get hoed, the soap was going to get made, the bread was going to get made, right? And so like,
Yeah.
I don't know why we beat ourselves up for working.
Yeah. No, it's so true. I invite Iris to help me with chores regularly. When she's like, come play with me, and I'll say, I have to put the laundry away. Do you want to help? And she'll say, sure. Now she's not going to think that's fun forever. I get that. But for now,
Yep.
she goes over and she'll get something and help me clean up, and I'll give her the spray bottle. Like, who cares if all of a sudden cleaning takes 10 times longer? I don't mind, you know? Yes, let's struggle with the spray bottle for a while and teach you how to use the spray bottle and talk about this. And okay, let's let you wipe everything down on this counter for 20 minutes. That's super okay. Cause I don't have anywhere to go. I don't have anything to do.
Yeah.
Who cares? And then she gets to learn and get excited about her involvement in the family too. So you're absolutely right. It's an interesting thing to constantly talk about this, the fulcrum of balance. You know, when you go onto a teeter totter or something, you never go into a park and the teeter totter is like this. It's always like this. And there's always a reason that you have to kind of balance, and it happens minute to minute, and it's okay to not get it right. And it's okay to apologize for it, even to your kids. It's okay for you to be vulnerable like that and say, I didn't get that right 12 seconds ago. I know I didn't get that right 12 seconds ago. I'm going to do better. I'm going to try to do better. And feel free to call me out on my stuff. Like, come talk to me. If you see me doing something that you don't think I should be doing, tell me about it. And I'll do my best to listen. I can't promise I won't get defensive. I can't promise there won't be a reason for me being the way that I am, but at least it opens up that conversation for what it means to be a human and just straight up struggle. Like, none of it's easy stuff, but I think we just have to get out of our heads a bit and kind of just say, yeah, there is no balance. My house is not trashed, but it's cluttery. Like,
Yeah.
you know, there's nothing that needs to be cleaned up that's hazardous, you know, so that's clean, but it's not like, you know, what I would see on Instagram or something. And that's okay. I'm not worried about that. We're all happy.
Because Instagram only shows this much of the camera lens. I mean, I for sure am guilty of, ooh, I'm going to take a picture of this pretty plate.
Yeah.
Wait, let me enough room on the countertop that I can make this look cute, right?
Yeah, like my background here. Cool. That looks great. If I showed you what's this direction, I mean, I've got a clock that's got a missing battery, my hair ties. I've got this weird thing that fell over I haven't figured out what to do with yet. It looks a bit more chaotic. And that's okay. I'll show it to you. You want to see it? I'll show it to you.
And it's all good. It's all good for sure. Okay, so we're going to transition a little bit.
Sure.
And I feel like for those that are listening and following along, just give you a little bit of why are we talking about health, mom-life balance, and then now we're talking about that word everybody loves but is afraid to talk about, and it's money. And I don't know why, except that God just laid it on my heart. So really it comes from me asking again a better question. Why am I in the health and wellness industry when I have a business degree? And what God keeps laying on my heart is you have a passion for family finances. We've struggled as a family. We've had challenges. We've learned a lot. And how can I then sort of reach back, reach forward, whatever that looks like, and help another? So, what are some money lessons that you have learned that you can share, or that you and your partner have learned together?
Well, first, my first money lesson is that I don't do well with money. I didn't have money lessons in school or at the table with my family, which I hope to change for what we want to do with Iris. I really want her to understand not just like, oh, you earn money, then you can spend it, but how to budget, how to think about things a little bit differently. So for me, money was not something I had a good relationship with, and it was very chaotic and dangerous. And I never had any credit cards, though. Thank God for that, because I think had I have a credit card, I'd be an incredibly in debt person because of my compulsiveness, and also my absolute love of like buying trinkets. Like, ooh, it's Tuesday and it's sunny. This is a good day. I should celebrate by buying something, just that's how I was raised in a way. So, when I was dating Justin, he's very good with money. That was one of the things I found to be very attractive about him, is that I could lean on him to help me get through a really difficult time. It took us quite a while, but we are debt free except for our house now. And so, yeah. And I think that's because I started listening to some podcasts and just listening to other people's conversations about money. The Money Maven is one of them. I've listened to Dave Ramsey, I think is his name, before. And there's so many things, but I love podcasting and listening to podcasts. I'm trying to find one like really quickly to see if I can just quickly scan through. But Redefining Wealth with Patricia Washington. And so yeah, so I just, as I got older and I started listening to podcasts, and I was just putting some different things in my ears. And one of the consistent themes was to get out of debt so that your money is your money. So we really started to try to focus on that about 5 years ago. And what that meant for me is I stopped desiring things that were outside of our means. We never had credit cards, so we never went into debt to get things. It was mostly just not adding on another subscription service or something, and like making our budget. Like, let's say we made $1,000 a month. Well, then that means we can spend $1,000 a month. It was changing our mentality to say, okay, we make $1,000 a month, but what if we only spent 500 and we could put 500 back and start making some headway? And that was the mental shift for us, was let's see what happens if we choose not to do XYZ, eat out or whatever, or buy the thing. And we just threw that at some debt, what would happen? And so that was really helpful for us. It kind of gave us some personal goals together, but we didn't agree on a budget. We don't agree on how to spend our money to this day. We don't agree. Even though we're debt free now, and we still have a budget that we, our incoming expenses and outgoing expenses, we both have different opinions on how to go about that stuff. So lots of decisions of being like, you know what, let's just do it your way. What's the worst thing that could happen? Let's find out. Like, is it going to be that bad? And so, yeah, I think that it's hard. It's hard to, it's hard. Money is hard, but we both realize that he and I are both spenders, and that makes us both willing to kind of go, yeah, we technically have the money, so let's go ahead and just get that new chair. So for me, I have to put on this filter that I hate, which is, do I need the chair? Do I need the chair? So, for the most part though, our lifestyle is we, have everything secondhand almost in our whole house. People who come over to our house and comment on our items, it's like, well, that's been in my family since the 1800s, or Oh, I traded 5 hours of work as a personal assistant for the armoire because my friend was moving and I thought it was cool. And she's like, well, if you help me pack for the day, I'll give it to you. Okay. So stuff like that, or hand me down couches. Our house is just this quilt of hodgepodge stuff. We're not the go into Ashley Furniture and, buy 10 grand of furniture and pay $250 a month on a credit card for it. We're not doing that, and it's okay. We have stained furniture and stinky furniture and it is what it is right now. And our next goal is to try to save up enough money that if Justin lost his job or if I lost my job, we would have enough of a buffer to find out another path and not lose our house. That's a big thing, especially with the pandemic, is okay, let's just start scrolling, let's get the nuts all put away. Once we get past that goal, I really hope to maybe buy a love seat. That'd be really freaking cool. Small goal, but it's my goal. Recently I bought a desk. I've been looking for a desk for 4 years, and I'm not exaggerating. I've been looking at used sites, all kinds of things. And I didn't find the one that I wanted, and I found it new. And I turned 40 November 22nd. And I was like, that's all I want. I want a big girl desk.
Yeah.
And I like that one, and it's new. And so I got a new desk, and I had buyer's remorse almost immediately because I'm like, oh, but I know I've been looking at all those used sites for years and I can't find one. So it's like, that hurt. But you know what? That's okay, because our massive table that seats 8 people, I got on a used site for $300 one afternoon. And sure, it needs to be sanded and repainted in a couple places, but that thing's going to last us for like 10 years easy. So it's a give and take. I think it's just expectations, and choosing to find your triggers. I know my triggers. I know if I had a credit card, ping, 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 I'd want to go out and maybe I'd only buy pens because I'm a pen hoarder, but still don't need any more. Let me use all the pens I've got, So it's recognizing and being really gut level honest with yourself about your patterns. And if your partner doesn't balance that out well, you just gotta figure out where you're leaking. And if you can not leak in money in certain areas and just take that money and like reshift it to, the simplest one I can think of is just pay off your phone, because it's really easy to get a new phone and then they put them on the payment plans. Just pay off the phone as fast as you can, and then your bill goes down every month. And it's like, oh, that was nice. Now my bill's less. Well, yeah, of course it is, but it's neat to see it happening. And that was one of the first ones we did, just to do something small. And it kind of gets addictive after that, and just throw it out there. But don't be mad at yourself. Give yourself like goals, give yourself some treats. I get $40 every week for spending cash to do whatever I want with. I have allowance, and that's how we roll. Now, my husband, he saves that and buys himself a new PlayStation. I spend it all on food, but we already knew that. I love being able to go out and be like, I want a classic rock latte today. So I'm going to go to Classic Rock and I'm going to get myself a latte. And yeah, I'm going to spend $5 on it. That's okay. And then a couple days later, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go get a latte because I can. So if I really wanted to like cinch down that $40, I wouldn't spend it. I'd be putting it towards, other things. But you have to kind of find those sweet spots for yourself. And that's enough for me. Like $40 every week is plenty. That's more than I had to spend in all of my 20s. Like I didn't have that. That'd have been awesome.
Yeah.
But I got it in my 40s. So that's good. So
$40 in your 40 for your 41st birthday. Are you going to get $41 a week? I think you should.
I think I should. I think I should.
That's awesome. And what we learned, Dave Ramsey talks about putting a name on every dollar. And I for sure had a 3-year-old tantrum about it when it first started, when we first started doing it. Like, darn it, I work hard for my money. I went to college. I have a big girl job. I shouldn't have to answer for this. But then you get that sort of, like you said, out of yourself. And you go, wait, I am spending it how I want to. I'm just the adult Brenda is spending it, not the in the moment Brenda. And and I think it also helps you to really learn, by the time you saved for that love seat, do you still want a love seat, or is it
That's
something
exactly
else?
right.
So maybe it is, maybe it isn't,
Mm-hmm.
but you really wanted it, and the priority didn't shift for whatever period of time.
Yeah. Yeah. Money is a hard one. But I think the other thing that's interesting too is when you're in your teens and 20s and 30s, maybe there's just this fun that you're having with it because it's not your parents' money, it's yours. You're earning it and you can do whatever you want. No one's stopping you from buying that jacket or whatever you want to get. It takes time to think about the future because you're so in the moment. And even now, I am in the moment. Even now, I am that person that's kind of chaotically in my moment. I have to force myself to think about, what is 65-year-old Denee'h going to be doing? Like, God willing, I live a full and healthy life into my 90s, get to see grandchildren, all that stuff. Like, God willing, that happens. What do I want to be doing at 65? Do I want to be working? Do I want to not be working? Those questions, to be quite honest, they suck. It sucks. It sucks to talk to people about money. It sucks to be like, oh, I better get like short-term disability insurance, blah, blah, blah. Like, oh, I've got to go talk to a financial advisor. Oh, I've got to figure out how to invest, like that stuff. It's not fun for me. For some people, oh man, they love it. They love talking about it. So the trick is, find someone that's passionate about it, that you jive with, and have those conversations. And it's okay. Like, I am not going to apologize for sitting in the financial meeting going, I want to tear my eyelids off. Like, I could be doing 1,000 more important things right now. Several of them just include sleeping. I don't want to talk about finances. I don't want to do this. But does 65-year-old Denee'h appreciate that 40-year-old Denee'h just put on her big girl pants one day and went and talked to a financial advisor? Yeah, she does. And so does Iris, her daughter. And so do the people that I could potentially help because I've got my act together. I had $20 in my pocket that had just sustained itself from week to week that I hadn't spent yet. And there was this person who had a homeless sign. And I don't always give money to homeless people because I just don't always feel led to. But this time I did. And it was just this dude. And I was just like, here's $20. And, like, it was like I gave him $1,000 or something. He was so shocked. And I just, like, that was several lattes for me. Who cares, But I can do that because I know all my bills are paid. You know what I mean? There's just this piece that I have. So I want to be able to do that tenfold when I'm 65. Like, what if I could give somebody $2,000, not have to blink about it, because I've got something together now that I'm being more aware of. And having a child is a different motivator as well. I want her to, not have to think about going to college, that's just paid for somehow because I'm putting money into an account for her now. So there's just different motivation that happens when you get out of your right now moment, this instant gratification moment, and you try to think about the future. And that happens when you start to listen to other people talk about the future and talk about what they wish they had done differently. That happens when you listen to, for me, it happened a lot on Dave Ramsey's podcast specifically because he takes callers, and I would hear these people talking about calling in because their parents were elderly and they didn't have anything, like not even a penny. And so now they needed healthcare, they needed care, they needed a place to live. They had all these bills that were due. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I don't ever want that to happen. What do I do? And it happened because I was hearing other people's stories. Yeah. So I think that is why I would recommend trying to listen to some podcasts or trying to listen to a show or something, even if you don't agree with it, because I know people who are debt-free who hate Dave Ramsey as an example, and they think he's just ridiculous. And he's really annoying. I agree. But sometimes you'll hear something that's just like, but that makes sense. And you kind of have to glean, what it is. So I'm glad you're talking about finances. It is an uncomfortable conversation, but it is something that there's just little tips and tricks you can kind of pick up in various places. And so if you haven't started thinking about finances for yourself, or it's just so stressful, and obviously talking about finances during the pandemic is an extra weight because people are losing their jobs. I mean, unemployment is insane right now. it's hard to know how to get through everything. I think the idea though is just take a day at a time. Make sure that you've got a house and you've got clothing and you've got food. First and foremost, budget for that. Make sure that you've got those things taken care of. Everything else can wait, right? Like, and hopefully you have a car that works. Maybe you need a budget for making sure that your maintenance works. And if that's all you can do right now in this moment, then that's okay. All of the debtors, that can wait. Everybody else can wait. Make sure that you've got your house, make sure that you've got your heat on, and make sure you've got food. And I think that's one thing too that I really appreciate to hear people's stories is that they did get to that point and it did get that low and it was that hard. And when you just kind of, everything can wait. You know, my mom and dad have been through crazy financial crisis. I think that's one of the reasons I never got a credit card is because I watched them go through a lot of credit cards and then go through bankruptcy. And I watched things being taken out of our house and I just never wanted it to get that way. So I know people have gone through really horrible things with finances and don't be ashamed of it. I think that's just something else is sometimes you learn really hard lessons or things happen to you that are completely outside of your control, AKA pandemic, you know? And just reach out to people and talk to somebody about it. Talk to a financial advisor or counselor or something, because money problems can be one of the most debilitating things that can happen to somebody and can put them into such a deep, dark place. Like, so talk to somebody if you're having financial crisis and it's seeping into your mind. It doesn't define you. It doesn't make you a bad person. It's just something that, you know, you're going to have to go through and it's going to hurt, but go through it with somebody who has resources for you. So call someone, you know, don't go through it by yourself, especially if you struggle with finances or even understanding the language of money and budgets. Try to align yourself with somebody who does understand it and cares about you. And that might just be free counseling at first. And then they have resources for you. And there's lots of free counseling available. BetterHelp, for example, is a website that does counseling and things like that. So, but I would say I'm glad that you're talking about money. I think it's really, really important to remember that it doesn't define you, but it is something that we have to use. It's a resource we have to interact with as a society. It's just part of what we do.
And similar, I think, to our, you know, what we were talking about with our attitudes toward food, our attitudes toward money play a big role too. And it's easy to think everybody else has it all together. But as you've shared and I've shared, when you talk to just about anybody, they've had a time where they really struggled with money and they probably really didn't know how it was going to work out. Mm-hmm. And so when we're honest and vulnerable, then we can find commonality. We can find that we can have conversations. But you ask just about any millionaire or business owner, what do they all tell you? Yep, I've been dead broke at some point in my life. I've
Dave
been dead broke.
and Patricia. So, yeah. Patricia, she had like $1 million business. So did Dave. And they lost it. Yep. And then they rebuilt it. And so they talk about how they rebuilt it. I'm curious though. I haven't been listening to them since the pandemic started. And I'm curious the calls that would be coming in because people are having to find new ways to make money.
Yep.
New ways to have some kind of an income coming in. And because so much of it is based on being at home and working from online, I'm really curious what their resources are for people. I'm wondering if they have websites, but I know, for example, Dave, they have so many people that work for him that you can call and you can just get some general direction. So even if you don't like the thing, you can still use the things that you're comfortable with. And they might have resources. So I know so many people are losing their jobs right now. And it's just like, I don't have the answer for all of that. I wish I did, but resources is the only thing I can think of for anyone. And Patricia Washington's a really great listen as well. Like if Dave drives you nuts, Patricia, she's so great. And she's really encouraging and fun. So maybe she's got some ideas too for anyone who's trying to figure out how to completely redirect their life and find a new resource, income stream.
Yeah. And I'm so glad that you brought that up, right? Because it can be easy in a crisis to, and not necessarily wrong. I don't mean that, to go internal and to like go into survival mode. And I'm just going to do this until it gets better. And there are times for that, for sure. And this pandemic is longer than any of us wanted it to be. And I think, again, when we go back to those stories of been dead broke at some point in your life, what did they do? They figured out other ways to make money. And so I love that there are so many options for working from home, making money online. And so if you're in a place where you're looking for something like that, let's talk, because there definitely are some options out there for people. Sure.
I even know somebody who just moved to a new state, and they have a job interview with a call center, and the call center just sends all the equipment to the house, and the calls are just directed to the home. So they're not having to go into a call center to work. They're going to be able to work from their house. So, businesses have to get creative about what they're doing to survive as well. And I mean, I had to answer phones for 8 hours a day at hotels.com for years before, like at one point in time in my life, whenever I had to stop doing my dream and make money because my dream wasn't making money. And I was like, I have to go make money. I hated that. It wasn't my personality. It was soul sucking. So I've had to like just do what I didn't want to do to make money before. And call centers is obviously one of those places that people, you can go and you can sit there and answer calls all day long, and it's not great, but if it works. So you're right. There's options and resources out there.
Definitely. Yeah. And I think network marketing as an industry is becoming more and more attractive to people as a way to do that, for sure.
Yeah.
Well. Okay. So what lifestyle habits have you learned that feed your soul? And I'm just going to say a smidge more about this. I'm adding a word to my vocabulary. It's soul keeping and soul care instead of self-care, because I think sometimes there's some baggage around self-care. We've seen the meme, self-care is selfish. Self-care is not selfish. But soul care, I think we can all agree, if we're taking really good care of our souls, that benefits in a ripple effect in mighty, mighty ways. So
I wrote down something simple, but it's something that changed my life. And that is to never assume that you know what somebody else is thinking. Never. And it's hard because, and I really felt this in school when I was in high school. I used to walk into a room and everyone turn and look, because that's what you do in high school. Someone comes into a room, people look up. But when you're a teenager and you're insecure and you're trying to figure out who you are and how it relates to the people around you, you look at people's faces and you're like, they all hate me. They're thinking about how I look. They're thinking about how I'm dressed. They're thinking about a rumor that they could have heard because I like so-and-so. And do you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
You begin to develop a very nasty habit early on of assuming that you know what people are thinking. And that can define how you talk to people around you, how you choose to interact with them. I was very angry when I was at that phase because I was mad at everybody for, thinking things about me, but I don't know what they were thinking, I can challenge this to every single point of my life. It helps me so, so much. Because what it has developed into over the years is this. If somebody has something that they want to say to me, it's hopefully they will. And that's all it is. The responsibility, the burden of figuring out what someone else is thinking or how it relates to me in my life it's not on me to figure out. That's on them. If I've said something that's offended somebody, I cannot chase everything down. I can't go back and try to clarify everything I've ever said. I can only hope that part of my personality would showcase enough that if somebody wanted to get clarification or they were offended and they want to talk to me about something, that they will come to me and say so. And that's on them to bring to me. It's not on me to go chase them down. Now, there are times whenever I feel like I need to apologize for something that I've said because it's weighing on my heart, like, oh, I could have said that differently or whatever. And I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about that thing that we do where we assume that we know what somebody else is thinking and we assume we understand their motivations. And so you change who you are or you change what you're doing based on what your assumptions are when you don't actually know at all. It's just this part of living where you can then look back and you can say, well, I just did the last 2 years of my life were spent thinking that you thought this. And they would be like, well, you should have just asked me. So I think that this comes from how things I observed growing up, things I've observed around me, and people who, I heard stories of like relationships where like a husband and wife are married and the wife assumes something about the husband or vice versa. And it just changes everything because they're not willing to have an uncomfortable conversation and say, hey, well, what are you thinking? Or what are you doing? Or this is what I'm thinking and this is what I'm doing. Or every day I get up early because I think this is what you want from me. And then he's like, I never said that. I never wanted that, because you're assuming. Now, and I'm somebody who likes to fill in the blanks. Like if somebody walks in and they're holding a coat and they're holding a purse, I'm filling in the blank. And when they're looking like left and looking right, I immediately assume they're looking for a place to put down their things. Let me go and fill in this void and take their things and help. That's kind of like how I am. And even though that's oftentimes what it is, that person might have been like, oh, looks cool around here. Or I might be like, oh no, I need to put something in my entryway because everyone's looking for a place to put their stuff down and they just don't, like they're really uncomfortable. So there's just this energy that kind of comes in, at least for myself, that was really, really debilitating. And so it's interesting that the question is like, what habit has fed your soul? And for me, the habit is reminding myself that whatever narrative I've got going on in my mind, I'm only in control of me. I'm not in control of anybody else. And it's really important that I stay in my safe zone. And my safe zone is inside of my own self. Like that's the best advice I can ever probably give to somebody that would really feed you as a person, is to just feed you as a person. Like try to make sure that your habits are ones that amplify your spirit. And that might be like daily reading for some people. That's not how it is for me. For me, it's every day reminding myself, I don't know what this person is thinking. My husband and I had an argument this morning. And after we get off of our Zoom call today, we're going to sit down and talk about it. And I'm going to go into that space and be like, I think I made some assumptions. Here's what I assumed. Here's how that changed how I talked to you. Own my stuff, because that encourages people to do this very, very same. It encourages people to be vulnerable with you. So, but yeah, I think it's an interesting space when like you're just living in your imagination, because truly you are. If you think you know what people are thinking, then you've no idea. I love memes these days because there's like that meme of like the couple that's laying in bed and the girl is like thinking like, oh, he's thinking about da 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 da, and like it pops over and he's just like, I wonder if I'm going to have bacon tomorrow or sausage.
Yeah.
And that's the truth. Don't spend a lot of time in your imagination. Try to find a way to be brave and bring it into the now. It might be embarrassing. It certainly can be at times. But once you are vulnerable and you like step on your own feet and you fall flat on your face a few times, you just learn to like be more dexterous with yourself and like catch yourself the next time. You can kind of begin to build those better habits of, I mean, I'm a happy person because I'm not assuming what everybody around me is thinking. Because if I did, I wouldn't do anything. Because it's my personality. I'd be so worried about what everyone was thinking. I would never do a morning show. I would have never, like, I wouldn't even do an interview like this because I'd be worried about what are people going to be thinking, So it's just, it helps you to be you. You're the only person that's an expert at you. Thinking about jobs too, that's something that you need to understand too. If there's no one on the planet that knows you better than you, and you are something that is needed out there somehow. So be your own advocate. And if your energy is put into like, I'm not saying amplify yourself for selfish reasons. I'm saying you can be selfishly humble too, right? Like you can do that. So I genuinely feel like I can be a more present and happy person because I kind of stopped that game from happening. I felt it really infiltrating early on. And thankfully, I think I had some good mentors that saw that and were like, you probably shouldn't have thought that you knew that, but let's try again.
Yeah. I love that. Amen. All day long. 100%. All of it. Yes. That is, it's huge, huge, huge. Okay. Why do you do what you do and serve where you serve? That's perfect from what you were just saying, right? Because if you live small and constantly measuring things by what people are going to think, you wouldn't be doing the things that you're doing.
No. Why I do what I do, I think I realized early on that my personality, I love to make people smile. I love to make people laugh. I don't know why I'm built that way. I think I've always been built that way. I also love storytelling. I love teaching. I love putting two things together. And when you combine the humor and the teaching and the storytelling and all this stuff, it's no wonder I do what I do now. But it's been a long time to get there. It's not something that you can go to school for. There's no school of Denee'Hughes. There's just me learning how to be me, learning what it means to be unapologetically me and confident me enough to go into job after job after job that's completely unrelated, by the way, to what I'm doing now. It's just life experience. So, but every time I've gone to a job or done something or serving somewhere, it has been probably like on the negative side, jumping from thing to thing because it feels good isn't always the best, because sometimes you need to stick in stuff that doesn't feel good. And that has happened for me too. I've learned that lesson. Oh, I got to stick with something that's hard. And I've definitely learned that in various capacities. But in each place that I've been, whether I was there for a short amount of time or a long amount of time, because I was having fun and because I was just like doing what I wanted to do, and I didn't feel like I was obligated to answer to anybody for it. Gosh, am I just so squirrely? I don't know. Anyway, I think people really just have been attracted and having fun with me. And so like I used to work at a bead store. They would come in and they would pick out beads, literally, and they put them on a jewelry tray. And then I would help put the string in or the wire and put it together. And then there were classes and people would come in and it was just conversation. I think what I do is I talk to people in the moment. I meet them where they're at. I look them in the eye. I am genuinely hoping that they're okay. They pick up on that and they open up their soul to me. I've been at the drive-through and people have told me their life struggle that's happening in their life. And I've moved my car over and I've canceled my meetings and said, come talk to me. And that is something I am designed to do, but certainly not everybody is designed to do that. And I think it's because I just am having fun. I'm having fun. Not all of what I do is fun. Some of it is hard work. And I've had to learn that has its own set of really cool payoffs that I did not know about. But I think I just like bringing people joy, and laughter is something that can penetrate the darkest spaces. And so in sharing my vulnerabilities and in sharing like who I am and my struggles and finding a way to laugh about the stuff that just doesn't go right, I think it just gives people permission to be human. And I will say this too, possibly something kind of dangerous to say. I grew up in the church, and in the church, the atmosphere that I was in, whether on purpose or inadvertently, the lessons that I learned was to hide who I was, because you needed to be a different person to be loved by God. And so when I left the church, I was determined to be myself. I was determined to just be me and not feel bad about it. And I met amazing people and I gained a lot of confidence in just being myself. And so I think that's one of the reasons I love sharing my vulnerabilities so much, is because I think I was taught, again, I don't know if it was intentional, but that's definitely the message that I received was, you don't share your failures because you need to be this to be good, or this, like, there's always this like goal, right? At least I don't think that's so prevalent now. I think that whole perfectionism and the legalism of the church, I think, is shifting a lot, which I really appreciate. But when I was growing up, it was really, really strong. And so I feel like that's one of the reasons why I boldly share stories that maybe people wouldn't really talk about, or, I think it's important. I think it's important to be raw and be myself. And I think that's another reason I lean into the humor of it, is because it's just, I don't think we're meant to be quite so serious about everything. But again, everybody's different. I'm different. And I definitely I see myself, when I look back filling that role many, many times over of just somebody that people like to talk to. I still get messages to this day from people I haven't seen in like 6 years who literally reach out to me and say, I think you're the only person I can talk to who won't judge me. And I want to be that person because I know what it's like to be judged growing up in a church. If you've ever been growing up in a church, you know what it's like to be judged. I don't want to ever be that space. I want someone to be able to come to me and say just about anything. And my reaction is like, ooh, that's a human thing. Let's talk about it, you know? So yeah, I think that's a little bit, if I don't know how to find the true answer in there. It's all that combination of stuff. But you know, what I do for a job is certainly geared towards making people laugh, and bringing light, and everything else behind it is just part of my personality that kind of just drives the boat.
Yeah. Okay. Last question before we jump into some rapid fire questions.
Oh, okay.
Didn't get ahead of time because I like to give people the opportunity to just, you know, roll
Sure.
off the cuff. And I know you can do it more than anybody. But this is really neat from what you're talking about, and that judgment, whether it's self-judgment or it's external judgment, this idea of what are the godly desires that are unique to you, right? And so I think instead of coming from a religious place of these are the things that you need to change in order to fit in, it is this beautiful place of God made you, Denee'h, exactly the way you are on purpose. It was not an accident. Made Brenda enthusiastic, loud, 6 foot tall, redheaded, has a thought about everything, right? He made me this way on purpose. That wasn't a mistake. There might be some things that he is softening and teaching me through my life as well, but he didn't put those things in there on accident. So what are some godly desires that are unique to you?
I think one of the driving, so I was raised in a Christian environment. I left the church for a number of years. And then I met a few people that just had really appropriate conversations about different perspectives of the Bible that I hadn't been taught. More specifically, they said, you don't have to have it all figured out. Just be you. Like God loves you as you. People don't love you as you, but that's not what the Bible says. And so it was like, oh yeah, okay. I've been learning God through people. And so I began to kind of just think for myself in that a little bit. And so one of the very first desires that I had in that very first time of like me, Denee'h, the adult, having a relationship with God, was I really do wish that everybody were more like unified and not so divisive. Yeah. Which is interesting to say in these days because it's so prevalent right now. And I don't just mean like politically, like denominationally. It's just there tends to be this like this mechanism to protect ourselves where we say that's you, not me. And I'm all for boundaries. Like that's a super important thing to develop for yourself in your life so that you know when somebody's hitting a guardrail or when you're hitting a guardrail. Like boundaries are essential. So I'm not talking about like removing all boundaries in our humanness. I'm talking about like unification from God's perspective, which is literally impossible for us to do because we're humans and we can't. I don't know if you know this. We're not divine. But anyhow, the desire for unity was just something that I had instantly. And I think that's why I don't judge people. I mean, I do judge people. I can't help it. I'm a human, but I really am the person that someone can come and say anything to and just like be like, oh, okay, that's a thing. Let's talk about it. You know, instead of being like, oh, wow. Now, I'm not designed to fix problems. I'm a listener. So I've learned how to listen and then kind of go, here are some resources. I can't be your everything. I've been through that before. It's very exhausting and I'm not built to do that. But one of the things that I really feel strongly about is when I'm talking to somebody about unity and choosing to see the good in somebody or choosing to see the God in somebody or choosing to see the light in somebody, doesn't mean you have to forgive them immediately or ever. It doesn't mean you have to invite them to the table again if they've been abusive to you. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that if you try to see part of them as being a person who's struggling too, not giving excuses, just this person is a human being. Like my mom and dad growing up, for example, when I was a kid, oh, they're so annoying because they gave me rules. But then at some point in time when I was in my like late teens, I was like, oh, they're just people. They're just big people. They don't know what they're doing either. They're just people. So people hurt each other. And I think we want to just continually try to get as many people away from us as possible so that we don't feel pain. And I understand that. And again, boundaries are important. So all that said, I think we need to learn to love people we don't understand and we don't agree with. And I think that's one of the key things to finding a way to perceive, not understand, but perceive unity as a group of humans. I think that I've seen this done better outside of Christian culture most of my life. Like shout out to my hippie friends, shout out to those wonderful people, shout out to my emo friends from back in the day, who could care. I mean, like they couldn't care less about whatever. They just accepted me as I was. And there's nothing more powerful than somebody seeing your junk and your crap and accepting you who you are.
Yeah.
And for that not to be happening in Christian bubbles breaks my heart. Because I don't think that's how it's supposed to be. Because the God that I read about, the Jesus I read about, the Holy Spirit that I read about is not wanting to have everybody trying to find all the ways that we're different and hate on each other. It's a complicated thing though. The human heart is really complicated and it's not one simple answer for everything. But I think for me, it started with learn to try to find a way to love people that you don't understand and you don't agree with. It doesn't always start with somebody who's hurt you. It starts with finding a way to love. And love is not like, oh, I'm inviting them to my table. Like I said, love can just be looking at someone and going, I see you. And that can be a way to love somebody. Love is very complex, but love is what we're called to try to figure out. And it's a very complex thing to figure out on your own. And I think it is helpful if you have somebody in your life that you can be completely honest with about all your junk and they still love you. Yeah. And if you have that example in your life, it makes it so much easier. And I think that's what the Bible is supposed to show us. I think that's the love. That's the love Jesus talks about. I think that's what we're supposed to focus on. And I feel like we're even focusing on all this other stuff. It's like Jesus didn't come to talk about all of the ways that Susan doesn't have her act together and isn't going to heaven. Jesus came to talk about God loves everybody, period. And that pissed off a lot of people because it's challenging. So, but I think that's the key to unity. I really do.
That's beautiful. Okay. We're going to do some rapid fire questions and then we will wrap it up. So I named these soul snacks, right? Because I already told you I'm all about shifting into soul care.
Okay.
And then, I mean, it's Fork Fighter, right? So we have to talk about food. So it's a soul snack. So in a word, a phrase, a sentence, as quick as you can, favorite food or meal?
Tater tots.
Yes. What is something people think about you that is often wrong?
Wow. I don't know. I don't make assumptions about that stuff.
Good for you. I love it. Name something in your fridge right now that is unusual.
Ooh. I don't know. Oh, I mean, one of my shelves is broken and we've managed to rig it up with duct tape. That's pretty unusual.
Yeah. Duct tape in the fridge.
But if you're talking about food, I have this, we call it Chia Pudding. It's literally, it's like Thai coconut milk, but it's like the Thai coconut milk.
Yeah.
And like, I think a third of a cup or less of chia seeds and about 2 tablespoons of like all natural maple syrup. And you just mix it up and then you put it in your refrigerator. And then we call it Chia Pudding. And
Yep.
so that's kind of a weird thing, but I love it. And it's just sweet enough. And then chia seeds are really good for you. So
Super good for you. Okay, that's awesome. I love it. Describe an everyday moment that brings you much joy.
when Iris runs into my room every day, she doesn't run in and stop and like jump into my arms. It's like a wham. She's like a body slamming baby because my husband is a WWE watching fool. And so he is raising a wrestler. She wrestles with him for sometimes an hour. So she is a body slamming baby and I love it.
Fantastic. I love that. Okay, your favorite word.
If it's the one that I use the most, it's like. I say like way too much. It's my crutch word. So I'll just go with that one.
Okay, good. Assuming there is a God at the end of your life, what would you like to hear him or her say?
Everybody's here.
Oh, I love that. Okay, I'm going to go off Facebook.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, everybody, for watching.